Okay, now we're going to talk about decoding an existing key. So the times that you actually do this is, imagine you have a customer, they bring in a key and the key's worn down. It works, but you want it to work better. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to decode a key and then we're going to bring it back to factory spec. We talked about the Gymkhana 994 before. It's by Keyline, and this is a machine that allows us to originate keys and to also decode keys so that we can bring older keys back to factory spec. And so we'll go ahead and I'll show you how this works. I'm going to go ahead and let's zoom in a little bit on this section right here. And then I will pull out the AutoSmart 2019 foreign book. And we went over this before as well. So, okay. Now the first thing we want to do is, let's say we have this key. We have a 2011 Honda CRZ. It's a laser cut key. And let's say this is worn out and we want to make a new one and we want to bring it back to factory spec. So what we're going to do is we'll go to vehicles. We'll look up Honda. So you could type it in. Next. Honda CRZ is right there. Next. Okay. Now this portion, you need the AutoSmart book, and I'll explain why. Okay, so sometimes there's a bunch of different code series right here. You want to make sure that you have the right code series to be able to cut this key. The code series basically tells the machine, this is the data that you want to use to be able to cut this key, because all keys have different cut depths, and this allows the system to have a preset information so that it knows how to cut the key properly. And how we do that is the AutoSmart manual. Now, we talked about this on how to use it. So pretty simple. You go to Honda. So we go to Honda right here. We go to Honda CRZ. Right there. It's on page 50. Let's see. It's going to be on page 50. See it right there? So we go over page 50. And this is what we want to look at. Key code. This tells us the right key code series that we want to work with. So you see it? It's K001N718. So this book right here tells you the right key code. Okay, so going back over to our machine, we're going to go up. And you'll notice right there, that is the right key code series. H001N718. So we know that. Now the next thing we need to make sure that we select correctly is this. So we know that we're looking for a 2011. So we go down here. 2011 is either these two. Now the question is, how do you know which one? You look to the right, master or valet. A master key copies this, produces a key that allows you to start the car, open up the glove box, go into the trunk. If you get a valet key cut, it'll allow you to start the car, but it will not allow you to get into the glove compartment or the trunk, and it's a safety feature. So you give your valet key to the valet so that they can park your car, but they can't get into your stuff. So in this instance though, almost majority of the times we're always cutting, primarily cutting master keys, which give the owner access to their entire vehicle. So we know it's not the top one because that's a 2015 to 2016. So between these two, we want the master one. So we select that, put next, and now this is the time where we go ahead and decode the vehicle or decode the car key. So we go decode. Now it's telling us clamp the original jaw key in the jaw. It says jaw U, stop, U0. And then it tells us to put the key tip all the way to the U0 mark. So I'm gonna bring this down so we can see inside over here. Okay, so, and we'll zoom out. And I'm going to open this up. Okay, so if you can see, we have jaw U. So this jaw works for a majority of the keys that we do. The only time you change out this entire jaw unit right here is when we do like European cars. But since we're not doing that, you don't have to worry about that. We keep in the same U jaw used for majority of keys. This works for edge cut keys and also laser cut keys. So it tells us use jaw U, which is this, that's fine. Now, if we zoom in, I'm gonna raise this, try to get it where we can see this. There's a little bit of light there, but you'll see. Let's see if we can get in. All right, perfect. Okay, you see there's different stops right here. U5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. This one, in this instance, is telling us to go to U0. So we simply follow the directions. We're decoding the key. So we put this in. We bring the tip all the way to the U0 spot. And you do the best you can to get it right on the mark. The good thing about this machine is that even if you miss it, it can recalibrate so that it can get the key cut correctly or decoded. So I have the key in. You'll see it's there. Now we're going to go ahead and put the lid down. And then what you do, if I can move it up. Next thing we're going to do, we press next. You'll see the system moving. And what it's doing right now is that it is now going to, let's see, decode this key. The little marker on the right is the tracer. The thing on the left is the cutter. So what it's doing, it's calibrating the machine right now. And you'll see the tracer go in, touch the tip of the key to make sure it knows where to start. Goes out, and now it's going to get the cuts on the side. Cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you know there's 6 cuts on the left side, same thing on the right side. But you'll notice with laser cut keys, both sides are different. A lot of edge cut keys for car keys tend to be the same. Laser cut keys, high security keys tend to have different cuts on both sides. So it is done decoding down there. Now it says decode complete. We press OK, and those are the key cuts. I'm going to put the camera down, try to get a good angle on this. Okay. So what we have here is the direct key code cuts on this particular key. Now I'm pulling my key out of the jaw so we can compare. This machine is not always 100% accurate. I would say it's about 95% pretty accurate, but as a human, you have to discern if it is the right cut. And the reason why is because when keys are worn down, it can be worn down so much that it changes the depth cut that this machine is reading. And so, you know, it's art and science combined right now. The science is getting this out here, then you're gonna have to pretty much eyeball this and figure out if you think that this is the right cuts or not. So you notice these are direct cuts, and those are each number corresponds to a cut depth. So like the 1 is a 0.313, a 2 is a 2.99, 3 is a 0.285, etc. And so here you'll notice that a 1 is a very shallow cut. A 2 is more deep, deeper, deep, deeper. 6 is the deepest cut. And so what we want to do is, if you look at this key, I'm going to try to zoom this in, try to get them focused on both if possible. Not sure if it's going to be possible, but let's see. Okay, this will work. So we literally have to look at this and see, are they accurate? And so when I look at this, I can already see that something seems off. This looks like, when I look at this, I feel like those are 1 cuts. But here it shows a slope of a 2 and a 3. I don't think that's right. And so what I do is, you can actually change these numbers. Well, if that doesn't work out well, you could press this. Let's see. And then you just directly change it. I think that's a 2, a 1, a 1. Could it be a 4? It might be a 4. It might be a 3. So I think it's a 3. A 5 and a 2. So this is tricky. This read is actually not as good as it should be. So you have to be very wary of that, and just make sure you always double check, because it always, it might not always be 100% accurate. Okay, so how I sort of do this is, I look at the key and I try to get a feel of, like, okay, what's a reference point? This looks like 1s, okay? And if that's the 1, and I can now gauge, what do I think the other cuts are? Now it is possible, so this key, just to let you know, it's like right up to like here. It's not like the full length. What you're seeing is not this full thing. It's really depicting about like right there. So you look at it and you have to try to do your best to accurately guess if it's the right one. So I'm just going to pull this key in so I can see. Okay, this does look like a 1. This probably is a 2, and I compare both sides to look like to see if it's the same. And let me see. Yeah, this one's made it tricky. It's not always this challenging, but it can be. And as the tech, you have to be able to figure this out. So yeah, what you do is you literally just go through it and you see, does it make sense? I don't think this is accurate at all. This read seems really bad. Usually it's not this inaccurate. But let's see, I'm going to change that, and I think, wow, so that's a 2. That seems about right, because if this is a 1, that's a little bit more in. This looks like, I don't know, it looks like maybe a 3, right? Oh, you know what? No, this one looks like, yeah, it could be a 5 or a yeah, and then it comes out. So what you're seeing is up to basically here, right here. It's like right up to here. So that very well could be a 2 or even a 1. Yeah, wow, this one's really tricky. So anyways, let's go from right to left. This looks like a 1. I think this is actually a 1 up here. This is probably the worst decode I've seen, but you know, it's good that we're working with worst case scenarios. But I think it's a 1. Looks like a 5 because they look symmetrical from this point to this point on both sides. This one, yeah, it looks like a 2. It's pretty shallow. This one looks like maybe a 3. This one doesn't look like a 1, actually. This one looks like a 3 too. So now you're starting to see it's starting to come to shape. It's actually looking pretty good. So this is the portion really that we're looking at right there. That's what you're seeing on the screen up to the numbers. So now it's starting to look pretty accurate. A 2, a 5, a 6, a 2, a 5, a 1. So you literally have to, I believe that, you know, this is pretty close to what it could be. This is why it's tricky when you're decoding, because older keys that are worn down, it's a little more challenging. And so you have to use your discernment about it and be smart about it, because you don't want to waste keys as well. So doing decoding is actually pretty complicated sometimes, because you're sort of guessing on some of these, and you can basically cut a key that's not going to work. And so you want to be smart about it. If you're not 100% sure, use a test key first. And that's why we charge more for decoding a key and bringing it back to original spec. So anyways, once you do that, let's say we feel this is pretty good, we go ahead and we press next. And what's going to happen is that I don't have a key that I'm cutting right now. So I am going to leave it as is, but essentially we're going to go ahead. If we press next, now it tells us to do the same thing, but put it in with a key blank. So it's jaw U up to stop U0. And so we do that with the key blank. We put it in. So we put the key in. Let's say this is a key blank. We put that in and we just basically tighten it. I look to the side right here just to see if it's like accurate. Once it's in, boom, you tighten it up, make sure it's good. You put it down, and then you go ahead and you press the cut button right here. You press that cut button right there. Once you do that, you activate the system and it will begin cutting that key if it was a key blank. So now you put in the key blank, it'll cut this side. Once it's finished, it'll tell you when it's done. You will open it up, take it out, and then it's going to tell you to flip the key 180, put it back in, same spot, U0, tighten it, put the shield down again, and then you go ahead and press cut again, and it will cut the other side. And then you're almost done at this point. The cuts usually are pretty clean, but sometimes it won't be. And so what you have to do is you clean it up a little bit on the sides right here. You can use a little file. You just use the tip of the file and you just go around it to take off any of the excess metal shavings. And then what you want to do sometimes is this machine tends to not cut everything on the flat areas where it should be. And so what you have to do is sometimes you have to bring this over to the duplicating laser cutting machine. And that's the one that cuts these type of keys. And what you want to do is you want to trace, you don't want to trace it so it actually touches the tracer touches the actual key, because then you will start making the key that you just brought back to factory spec back to the old key. So you just want to use the laser cut to clean down the sides or the flat areas. Clean it down so that's real smooth. Then usually what I do is I will, let's get it back into focus, file the sides a little bit. Just that tends to be the area where most of the issues happen on the keys. So I usually file it slightly on this side and this side. This autofocus is terrible right now. There it is. I basically will shave down these sides a little bit, and then you go out and you test it on the door. You put it into the door keyway several times in and out just to clean off this newly cut key. Feel if it feels pretty good. If not, you have to do a couple more adjustments, and I'll show that in another video. And then from there, you test it in the ignition, same thing, in and out a couple times just to get it nice and clean since it's brand new. And then you test if it feels pretty good and if it works. And if it does, there you go. You just finished your first decode on a laser cut key. Laser cut keys tend to be more challenging, but you can also do the exact same thing for an edge cut key. So that is, in a nutshell, how you go ahead and decode an edge cut key or a car key in general. So the steps are basically you go to this machine. Just to recap, let's say we go to home, you go to vehicles, you find the Honda, you find your make and model, you find the right key code, you put the key in, you decode it, and then you put in the key blank, and then you allow the machine to cut the key. So that in a nutshell is how you use the Gymkhana 994, the automated auto key duplication machine, to decode a key and to cut a brand new one back to factory spec.